mynews.studio.
If you walk down the streets of Addis Ababa right now, you'll notice something new. Electric vehicles are everywhere. But with Ethiopia's bold move to ban combustion engine cars, is the country's infrastructure actually ready for this change?
Today is October 16th, 2025. Ethiopia has become the first country in Africa to stop importing combustion engine vehicles, a policy that's been in effect since January last year. This isn't just a headline. The shift is already visible in the capital as more electric vehicles show up on the roads. What's behind this rapid transformation?
The government's reasoning is pretty clear. They want to cut air pollution, reduce the cost of fuel imports, and show leadership in clean transportation. But making electric vehicles affordable for regular people is a tough nut to crack. So, how is the government actually making EVs more accessible for everyday Ethiopians?
It's a combination of policies. First, there are tax breaks. Electric vehicles don't pay VAT, surtax, or excise tax. Then there's a tiered customs duty. Completely knocked-down kits, which can be assembled locally, are exempt. Semi-knocked-down kits have a 5% duty. Fully assembled EVs from abroad face a 15% duty. The goal is to boost local assembly, lower prices, and create jobs. But
even with all those incentives, EVs are still out of reach for most people. Used electric cars start at around $35,000. A new one can cost as much as €110,000. And financing is another problem. Only about 5% of adults in Ethiopia have access to formal credit or mobile money. So, who's actually able to buy these cars?
it's mostly wealthier residents in the cities. The majority of the population is still left out. The government has set up interest-free leasing and is pushing local assembly, but access is really limited for most people. So, are we looking at a policy that just benefits a small group, or is there potential for broader impact?
That leads to the next challenge, infrastructure. With only somewhere between 13 and 50 public charging stations in the entire country, and most of those in Addis Ababa, how are all these new EVs supposed to keep running?
And then there's electricity access itself. Only about 55% of Ethiopians have electricity, and blackouts are still common. The country relies heavily on hydropower. Over 96% of its electricity is renewable, but the grid isn't always reliable. Is the infrastructure catching up to the policy changes?
They're making some progress. New ultra-fast charging hubs are under construction in the capital. There are also plans to install smart pole chargers as part of the city infrastructure. By encouraging local assembly, the hope is to attract more investment in after-sales services and charging stations. Still, rural areas are almost entirely left out. Do you think these efforts can really support an EV transition across the whole country?
Not at this stage. Infrastructure is expanding, but not nearly as fast as the number of EVs. The government is also training new mechanics and updating regulations, but the scale of the challenge is frankly enormous. What if?
You mean what happens if Ethiopia's plan clashes with international trade rules? That's a real possibility. Ethiopia wants to join the World Trade Organization by 2026. Once a member, they'd have to treat imported and domestic products the same. That could force them to reopen the market to combustion engine vehicles. Would that undo all this progress?
It might. If Ethiopia has to scrap the ban, it could lose its position as a leader in Africa's EV shift, import more fuel again, and slow down its climate and public health improvements. The government could try to get special exemptions, but there's no guarantee other WTO members would agree. Is it possible for Ethiopia to keep its green ambitions and still follow global trade rules?
People everywhere are watching. Ethiopia's policy is a test case for whether a developing country can leap straight to clean mobility. If it works, it could set a model for others in similar situations. If it doesn't, it might make people doubt whether ambitious environmental policies can succeed without big economic sacrifices.
So to wrap up, Ethiopia's ban on combustion engine imports is transforming its cities and economy. But big questions remain about affordability, infrastructure, and international trade. Will Ethiopia end up as a model for clean mobility or as a warning for others?
Thank you for joining us as we explored whether Ethiopia's electric gamble can really reshape the future of transportation, not just for Africa, but globally.
Thank you for listening. This episode was brought to you by mynews.studio. You can try it now for free.